8:08 a.m. exactly, news and views on Salam Media. My name is Julie Ali, and I do welcome you to the program. Inshallah, you will keep me company over the next 2 hours. As you've heard, we have a wonderful lineup of guests and topics that we're going to be covering. Let's start off first with the issue of the Democratic Alliance. They are set to hold a convention on coalition governments to drive the ANC out of power in 2024. Are they being overambitious? Is this doable? Are the South Africans sick and tired of the ANC's poor governance of the country over the past almost 30 years? Where do we stand on this issue? Can we trust the DA to deliver? A very good morning to you, Professor Sam Koma. Welcome to the program. And I'm sure you're going to respond to my opening statement.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Julie, for the opportunity. Yes, basically, the DA and the rest of the 6 political parties are gearing themselves up for the 2024 national elections. We know that tomorrow until Thursday, they'll be convening in Kempton Park to craft the way forward, and also as part of preparing themselves for a possible coalition governance come 2024. The good thing is that they've roped in one of the leading academics in the country, Professor William Gumede, to independently chair the proceeding of the National Convention, because all the parties will have to agree on a number of issues. Of course, before the conclusion of the proceeding, issues pertaining to the policies that they want to package as part of looking at their electoral pact, and also they will have to agree on the criteria for allocation of political positions, or as part of looking at power sharing come 2024, and also looking at other issues, for example, dispute resolution mechanisms in the event there are disputes that arises within the context of the coalition pact. They will also have to decide on that. Are they going to set up an independent body or some kind of a tribunal that will come into play in the event there are these kind of conflicts or disputes arising during the lifespan of the election, or as part of their coalition arrangement or agreement that they have to agree on. But also there is a hurdle that the Democratic Alliance or the DA will have to pass through, because we know that ahead of this national convention, there have been murmurs or rumors that there is a talk taking place between the DA and the ANC to forge what they call a grand coalition. And we know that one of the parties, that is Action SA, has already made a call that come the national convention, they will put an item on the agenda which will require that the DA signs a legally binding agreement that they will not go into a grand coalition with the ANC. So that would be one of contentious issue that this national convention will have to resolve on before, of course, they agree on a number of other principles or shared values that they want to forge as 7 political parties. So it's quite interesting.
Okay, but both parties, the ANC and the DA, have publicly proclaimed that they were not going to be engaging with each other, and there is no possibility at all of a coalition between the two of them. But I guess the smaller parties are a bit nervous, because as far as politics is concerned, anything is possible. So they're wise to get the DA to sign a contractual, legally binding agreement to that effect. Of course, there's also the issue, and I think this is very important, regarding power sharing. If they don't get that right once they go into a coalition, the whole party could collapse. That coalition could collapse, as we've seen in Johannesburg, in the sea, obviously with the musical chairs being played, as far as the mayoral issue is concerned, right in Johannesburg. It's quite a circus, is it not? Um,
Mm.
what's that power sharing situation going to look like? And I know they're going to trash it out this weekend, but what is the best case scenario as far as that is concerned?
Yeah, so just to give one example, so if you go to KZN, already there is some coalition pact between the IFP and the DA. They've entered into service delivery pact. They've also agreed on allocation of senior political positions in one municipality, that is Moonshot. We know that the deputy mayor elected there is coming from the DA. So that is one example on how at the national level, they also want to look at, in the event they are able to unseat the ANC and also enter into a coalition government arrangement. How are they going to then look at the issue of the allocation of seats or positions, which are executive positions that would be the cabinet positions in the main, because that would be a national government. Are they going to deploy senior leaders of the various political parties that have entered into the pact, and also the issue of experience that come into play, issues of expertise, issues of qualifications. So all of those will be part of the criteria or the formula that they will have to agree on collectively as seven political parties, that once we enter into this coalition governance at the national level, how are we going to allocate these positions using an equity principle as well, because it has to be equitable based on the representation and also participation of the seven political parties. Remember also in 1994, already we had a government of national unity. You had allocation of cabinet positions to the former or then or erstwhile National Party. You also had the Democratic Party and also the IFP, which were also allocated positions, including members who were drawn from the ANC in the main. So they can use the same criteria or the same formula as part of crafting their own plan around their possible coalition arrangement. But in the
Okay.
case of, as I said already, there are best practices that both the IFP and the DA have managed to forge already.
Okay, so the big question here would be the EFF. It almost seems as if they'll be left out of the coal. We are also hearing talks that there is a possibility that the EFF might go into a coalition with the ANC. And if that happens, we are seriously looking at possibly the ANC, being in power yet once again. With the EFF going into a coalition with them, they would obviously achieve that 50 plus one majority. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think the EFF would want to go into coalition? Because we've already heard talks that that might be happening.
Yes, Julie, what is intriguing about the EFF ANC matter is that already the Veterans League of the ANC has resolved that they intend to persuade the NEC of the ANC not to agree to go into coalition with the EFF. So they're very firm on their position that the ANC should not consider going into a coalition arrangement with the EFF come the national elections in 2024. So there are varying perspectives within the ranks of the ANC on how they are expected to proceed to entertain any talk of coalition arrangement with the EFF. So we'll see how that one pans out. But of course, in the event, as you rightly put it, that the ANC falls below the 50% electoral mark, which parties are they going to entertain in terms of coming up with a deal as part of forging or forming a coalition government? Will it be the EFF? But I think the ANC will consider also talking to the other so-called small parties, your Good Party, the PAC, for example, if it happens to get representation in that government. You have Al Jama, for example. Those are parties that seems to be resonating with the ANC at the moment in terms of looking at possibility of forging a coalition arrangement with them.
Let's just suppose a scenario where the ANC doesn't win the majority, even if they go into a coalition and they still don't get to the 50+1 mark. How do you suppose the ANC is going to look like? And what's the future then of the ANC? Together with possibly Al Jamaa, because they have already indicated their strong alliance with the ANC, and the good party, Patricia de Lille, undoubtedly would also support the ANC. So how do you suppose the ANC would look like? Their numbers will have shrunk.
Yes.
Whom do you believe is going to get the sack? There's going to be lots of heads that will be rolling. And whom do you believe will be the first heads that will start rolling?
Yeah. Very interesting scenario you're plotting, Julie. You remember, either way, any government that will, or any political party that will fall below the 50%, for that political party to enter into a coalition government to govern, they will need a party called the EFF. Because the EFF at the moment is the one that has a bigger or sizable electoral outcome within the ranks of the opposition parties. So if the 7 political parties collectively, they're able to pull through an electoral pact that takes them to 40%, for example, so they will need the EFF to come in the fold, or they will need the ANC to come in the fold to forge a majority government. So the EFF will remain a key player, but the scenario that we have plotted, so obviously, then if that eventuality happens, the ANC won, my sense is that they will accept electoral defeat, go into the opposition benches, and also start looking at the best way of serving as an opposition party. It has happened in the Western Cape province. You remember, they used to rule that province, and now they're in the opposition benches. The same in KZN. It was ruled by the IFP since 1994 until the IFP lost power to the ANC. But the ANC, then it was serving in the opposition benches. So it will be a lesson for them on how, of course, in the next electoral round, how are they going to position themselves to get back to political power.
Okay, we need to go for an ad break, but I'm going to leave you with this question, which you can respond to after the break. Julius Malema is a law unto himself. He's a very, very strong personality, and he obviously would make huge demands if he has to go into coalition with any party, even if it's the ANC. What do you suppose those demands would look like? And taking into consideration the faction, the two factions within the ANC, how is he going to play into all of that? And we know his views. RET is top on his agenda. Let's look at that scenario. Should the ANC then go into coalition with the EFF, will it bode well for the country? You can respond right after the ad break.
Thanks.
Blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together. It could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Ah, the kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child. to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nani. Now I'm using Tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib black seed. You can find Tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al-Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is exactly 8:25 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. We're talking with Professor Sam Koma. He is a governance expert, and we're looking at the issue around the DA. They are obviously holding their convention this weekend on coalition governments, and this obviously is to drive the ANC out of power come 2024. And this is now really the build-up to the upcoming elections. I think we're going to be covering this going forward on a regular basis. So back to you, Professor, your response to my question pre the ad break.
Yes, Judith, thanks for that. So I see three issues or demands raised by the economic freedom fighters. One will be the issue of state-owned enterprises or companies. So they may demand an end to any possible sale or privatization of state-owned companies, Eskom, Telkom, Denel, South African Airways, SABC in the main.
Can I come in here? As a governance expert, your thoughts on SOEs being privatized, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Will it serve the country or not?
Yes, I mean, we have experiences with partial privatization of state-owned enterprises between the period 1996 to 2000. I just want to cite 2 or 3 examples. It was South African Airways, which was partially privatized, and that led to massive job losses. Until today, SAA is not profitable, is not able to achieve its strategic objectives within the aviation sector. You also had Telkom that was partially privatized. It also led to massive job losses. Then a lot of people lost jobs in that state-owned enterprise. So government should not implement policy decisions that have unintended consequences, namely policies that may trigger the loss of jobs, and also policies that may not assist the government in the main to be able to propel the economy into higher growth rates. So we have seen that with that experience, government failed in terms of growing the economy and also creating the much needed employment opportunities as a result of the partial privatization of the state-owned companies. So what we need is capable leadership that is appointed at the board level and also at the executive level to be able to steer these state-owned companies in the right direction in terms of ensuring that they achieve the strategic objectives, they become optimal in terms of performance, and also they don't have to rely on the state for the bailouts. They are commercially viable, commercially well run, and all of that. But this is not what is obtaining at the moment because of the poor leadership that is obtaining in the state-owned companies.
And your two further points that you had to make regarding my question.
Yes, Julie. So the other demand, it will be on free education for all. I think the EFF will be adamant on that. And the last one is around the issue of insourcing, that the state should end outsourcing of services, whether it's core services or non-core services, your security, your cleaning, and also other technical related services. So let's have workers employed fully as part of working for the state or the public service sector, as opposed to bringing the private companies to run some of these affairs or the assets that belongs to the state. So I think they will be adamant on that.
And your thoughts, do you think that it is doable? Will it be profitable? Will it create employment? Will this bode well for the country going forward?
Yes, Julie, you can see in the city of Joburg, under the mayorship of Herman Mashaba in 2016 to 2018, thereabout, the EFF was able to call for the insourcing of the workers. And then the mayor, that is Herman Mashaba, was able to look into that and to also implement the insourcing of those workers, largely the security workers and those who are in the cleaning services, your pick it up guys and all of that. So that is also the best way to ensure cost savings around labor cost, and also to ensure that these institutions that belongs to the state are able to run also effectively and also efficiently in the main.
So, Professor, let's just ask the question regarding PRASA and Transnet. Why do we find it in such a poor state? It's all but almost reached the end of its life. Is this due to all of our corrupt government officials? That's the one issue. And let's look at this coalition between the EFF and the ANC. What will the trade unions' role be if these two parties come into power? They form a coalition and they do not entertain privatization of SOEs at all. Will the trade unions still have a role to play in South Africa? So two questions: PRASA, Transnet, other state-owned entities, and trade unions.
Yes, thanks, Julie. So with PRASA, Transnet is procurement efficiencies. You remember the Zondo final commission's report has made a recommendation that the president should consider instituting a commission of inquiry looking into PRASA, because they said their scope of work as a commission could not get to the bottom of the rot taking place at PRASA. So that tells you the sheer magnitude of the problem facing the two state-owned enterprises or state-owned companies, that is Transnet and also PRASA. So coming to the coalition, obviously Labour will still be a major player in the country in terms of any government that gets elected to run the affairs of the state or to govern the country, whether it's the coalition pact under the DA or it's the ANC and the EFF getting into coalition. Because remember, you have NETLEC, and at NETLEC, Labour has a stake and also a say around any issues pertaining to labor relations. So whether they want to amend the existing labor laws, whether they want to ensure that the labor laws become flexible, Labour will always be influential around shaping such kind of discussions, policy reforms at the NETLEC level. And remember, they also have the ability to go to the streets and also stage a national shutdown, for example, as part of registering their displeasure around the socio-economic direction of the country and also the rising cost of living that faces majority of the working class.
Julius Malema has for a long time been talking about land distribution without compensation. Should he go into a coalition with the ANC, do you think that that would become a reality? And what would that look like for landowners in South Africa? What sort of land redistribution is he looking at?
Oh yeah, so their position is that land should belong to the state. And that's where
Sorry about that.
Oh yes. So the EFF is saying land should belong to the state. But the ANC says no, not all land should belong to the state because already you have private owners of private property. What are you going to do about those? And they are owners of this land, irrespective of rent. How are you going to accommodate their situation in terms of looking at the issue of land reform? So this is where the two parties are differing as to the means and also how to go about implementing land reform in South Africa that caters for the interest of all the different groups that own land in the rural areas. Remember also Black people own land, but the EFF says no, all land should belong to the state. Everyone should get land from the state. So that's where the two parties are conflicting in terms of that particular policy. But once they're in government, they can always iron out some of these differences around the issue of land reform or land ownership.
Really very interesting talking with you this morning. I do look forward to many more such conversations. Thank you indeed, Professor Sam Koma, governance expert. Lots more to unpack, but we leave it for future programs. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Julie.
It's exactly 8:34. News and views on Salam Media. In a minute or two, we're going to be crossing over to Afghanistan, and we're going to be looking at the issue around women in Afghanistan 2 years after the Taliban takeover.